Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. If you can think clearly in English when you're alone, if words come easily in your head and your sentences actually make sense. But the moment another person is in front of you, everything changes. Your thoughts slow down, your mouth feels heavy, your confidence drops, and suddenly the English you were so sure about feels far away. This video is not about learning more English. It's about understanding why your mind reacts the way it does when attention, pressure, and expectation enter the moment. Because the problem is not that you don't know English, and it's not that you need more practice. It's that your brain behaves very differently when you're speaking to yourself versus when you're speaking to people. And once you understand that difference, the gap between the English in your head and the English you speak out loud starts to disappear. When English works only in your head. If you're new here, take a moment and stay with me, because what we're about to talk about is something you experience almost every day, even if you've never said it out loud. Let me describe a moment that feels strangely confusing. You're alone, maybe walking, maybe lying on your bed, maybe just thinking quietly, and in that moment, your English feels smooth. You can form sentences in your head. You can explain ideas. You can even imagine conversations and answer perfectly. Sometimes you think, wait, I can actually speak English. But then real life happens. You're suddenly in front of people. A colleague asks you something. A stranger starts a conversation. Someone is actually listening. And now the English that felt so clear a moment ago feels heavy, slow, and difficult to access. You start searching for words you know. Your sentences feel shorter than your thoughts. And once again, you leave the conversation thinking, why am I so bad at this? That gap between how you sound alone and how you sound with people is not accidental. And it's not because you're pretending to know English in your head. When you're alone, there is no pressure to perform. No one is waiting for a response. No one is evaluating your grammar, your accent, or your speed. Your brain feels safe, and safety is what allows language to flow. But the moment another person enters the picture, your brain quietly changes its role. It stops being a thinker and starts being a monitor. Instead of focusing on the idea you want to express, it begins checking how that idea will sound. Is this sentence correct? Is this word appropriate? Am I taking too long? Do I sound confident enough? These questions don't come because you're weak. They come because you care. And the more you care about how you're perceived, the harder it becomes to speak naturally. This is why your English feels better in your head. In your head, there is no audience. There is no judgment. There is no timer. You're free to pause, restart, and rethink. But conversations don't offer that kind of space. They move forward whether you're ready or not. And if your brain is still trying to sound perfect, it falls behind. This is where most people get stuck. They assume the solution is to practice speaking more alone, hoping that one day the confidence will magically transfer. But confidence doesn't transfer. It adapts. Why your brain changes in real conversations. When you speak English alone, your brain knows something very important. Nothing is at risk. There's no one waiting for you to respond. No one forming an opinion. No silence that feels uncomfortable. Your thoughts can take their time. They can appear, disappear, and come back again. But a real conversation doesn't work like that. The moment another person is involved, time starts to matter. Pauses feel louder. Silence feels heavier. And your brain becomes aware that a response is expected. That expectation is what changes everything. Your brain begins to treat speaking not as expression, but as a task that must be completed correctly and on time. This is where the pressure comes from. You're no longer just thinking. You're deciding, selecting, correcting, and predicting, all at the same time. And the human brain cannot do all of that smoothly under pressure. So it slows you down, not because you lack ability, but because it's trying to avoid making a mistake in public. When you're alone, mistakes don't matter. They disappear the moment they happen. But in front of people, mistakes feel permanent. They feel visible, and your brain reacts by tightening control. It tries to choose safer words, shorter sentences, more familiar structures. That's why your spoken English with people often sounds simpler than what you can think alone. You're not losing language. You're limiting it. And this limitation becomes a habit. Every time you hesitate, every time you overthink, your brain learns that speaking English is a situation that requires caution. So, the next time you're with people, the tension appears even faster. This is why practicing alone, even if it improves your vocabulary and clarity, doesn't fully solve the problem, because alone practice trains thinking. But conversations test response, and response needs a different kind of readiness, one that isn't based on perfection, but on comfort with uncertainty. Bringing your alone English into real conversations. By now, one thing should be clear. The English you speak alone is the most honest version of your ability. That is not fake English. That is not imagination. That is what your brain sounds like when it feels free. So, the goal is not to create new English. The goal is to protect that freedom when other people are present. And this is where most learners try to do the wrong thing. They try to become faster. They try to sound smoother. They try to eliminate pauses completely. But speed is not what makes speaking feel natural. Permission does. When you speak alone, you allow yourself to pause. You allow yourself to restart. You allow yourself to change direction mid-sentence. You don't panic if a word doesn't come immediately. But in front of people, you suddenly treat every pause as a failure. And that fear of pausing is what actually blocks your speech. So, the first thing you need to practice is not speaking faster, but staying calm inside the pause. A pause is not a mistake. It's a thinking space. The moment you stop treating silence as danger, your brain stops rushing to protect you. Another important shift happens when you change what you're aiming for. Instead of trying to finish a perfect sentence, aim to move the idea forward, even if the sentence is incomplete. Real conversations are not written essays. They're built step by step. Fluent speakers adjust as they go. They don't plan the whole sentence before speaking. And you don't need to either. When you allow yourself to start speaking, before everything is clear in your head, your brain follows your voice. This feels scary at first, because you've been trained to wait until you're sure. But waiting is what keeps you stuck. Speaking first and adjusting later is what brings your alone English into the real world. If you notice closely, your best moments in conversation often come after you've already started speaking. That's not a coincidence. That's your brain realizing that it's safe to continue. When speaking stops feeling heavy, at this point, you don't need more rules. You don't need techniques to memorize. And you don't need to push yourself harder. What you need is repetition of safe speaking moments. Not big conversations. Not perfect conversations. Just real ones. Moments where you speak, pause, adjust, and continue, without punishing yourself for how it sounded. This is how your brain relearns speaking. Every time you speak with people, and nothing bad happens, your brain updates its expectations. Slowly, the tension reduces, not because you forced confidence, but because your brain experienced safety. This is why confidence doesn't come first. It comes later. You'll notice small changes at first. You won't freeze as quickly. You'll recover faster when you do. You'll stop replaying conversations in your head afterward. And one day, you'll realize something quietly powerful. The English you once spoke only in your head is now appearing in front of people. Not perfectly, but naturally. And that's all fluency really is. If this video described your experience, then you're not alone. And you're not behind. You were just trying to speak, under pressure that never needed to exist. If you want more videos that break English fear at the mental level, stay here and subscribe the channel. This channel isn't about sounding impressive. It's about feeling comfortable enough to speak. Comment and like the video, and make sure to press the bell icon so you do not miss new updates. And remember this, you already speak better English than you think. You just need to let it come out. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.